Hello, YouTube. Clarin. This is the kind of thing that I started this silly project of making YouTube videos with my laptop for. Uh, Clarin is basically just the Haitian Creole word for cane spirit. So rum, basically. And you may say to yourself, okay, why should I care? Why should I care about this crazy spirit that's coming out of Haiti? It's basically just white rum, right? Um, okay, let me give you some reasons to care beyond the fact that it's good. We'll get to that in a second. Um, so if you're going to classify rum, right? Um, there are a couple of ways to do it, but there's two basic ways to split things up. Are you making it by way of molasses, or are you making it by way of cane juice, or maybe cane syrup, which is basically just sort of evaporated cane juice? Second distinction, are you making it in traditional pot stills, or are you making it in column stills? And there's distinction there too, right? It's how big is the column still? How aggressively is it distilling? That kind of thing. But basically, let's just keep things simple. So if you're looking for the different types of rum by that classification, there's tons of molasses-based rum out there from column stills. It's the majority of the world. There's a good amount out there from pot stills that you can find. If you're looking for rum made entirely from cane juice, not molasses, you can go to Martinique, right? You can go to Barbacoa, also on Haiti. There's tons of places that make well, not tons, but lots of places that make that kind of spirit. What about that fourth category, though? What about the pot still distilled cane juice rum? Who makes that? Well, if you go to Martinique, St. James Distillery, you can apparently, they still have a pot still running there, and they will apparently sell you some of the rum from it, but they'll only sell you that at the distillery. I know Savannah Distillery over in the Indian Ocean also is. I think they're capable of it. I'm a little bit baffled by them, to be honest. I know they can do it. I don't know if they actually do cane juice pot distillate. And then there's these guys. What you're getting with these is basically micro distilleries that have small pot still setups, and they're distilling fresh cane juice most of the time. Cane syrup sometimes, but that's really only in this setup, the Rocher. Okay, so that's the main thing. If you want pot distilled cane juice, not molasses, this is kind of the most easily available option. Why else should you care? Well, it's that micro distillery thing, right? There's Clarin is not a big corporate industry yet. Give it a couple of years. Right now, it's just nerds making the stuff in sheds in their backyard, and there's hundreds of these little sort of mezcal style local distillery, micro distilleries, sort of around Haiti, and beyond that, you're talking about local cane varieties. These are not most of the time. These are not sort of industrial agricultural varieties. They're just using whatever's on hand, and of course, it's going to be organic because they don't have the money to make it not organic. And then there's the big thing, which is wild yeast. They're not getting the yeast they use for fermentation out of a bag. They're getting it from just whatever's in the environment, whatever's in the air, whatever's on the cane when they cut it. Right. So with all these little variables, the small scale production, the different yeasts, the different cane variances in vintages. Most of these guys are sort of vintage dated, right? You're getting into the territory of what wine nerds like to call terroir, sort of just the providence of the land and the year and just, countless variables going into these things. So these become a very sort of nerdy option, just beyond the fact that it's pot distilled cane juice, and you're not going to really be able to get that most other places. So that's a reason to be interested. So I'm going to do a whole series reviewing these things, mainly because I haven't seen anyone else on YouTube doing it. But I'm not going to start with these. We're going to get to these. These will come back. These are the Velier series. Velier is the sort of big head and sort of nerdy rums at the moment. But I want to start with something that is a little bit of a new kid on the block. These will come back. Which is this guy. This has just come out. This is Clairins and Milot from Distillerie Patrick St. Surin. This is the first, so far as I know, the first Clarin to come out not from Velier. This is actually, the distribution on this is going to be a little bit weird, because this is actually not a traditional spirits distributor. This is actually being brought in by some folks called Selection Massal in Oakland, and they're wine people for the most part. If you look at their site, most of their focus is on sort of really geeky places in France. So they're bringing in wine from Corsica, from like Jura, from Loire Valley, from all these. They got some Bordeaux and things, but it's really the sort of nerdy wine stuff that doesn't get a whole lot of popular attention, but is really good and really weird. So that's a first data point on understanding this. Like the wine nerds believe in this stuff. The second thing is to note this as maybe an important moment for Clarin is look at this design. This is not okay. If you look at the Veliers I just set out, you look at the labels and they have this, aside from the wild art, which is awesome, you have clear markings of vintage, of the kinds of cane varieties, of the master distiller. They're just giving you tons and tons of data on the bottle. This is, much more minimalistic. This is clear. I mean, it does say on the side there, L19, which I think refers to a 2019 lot, but I'm not sure. And they give you a little bit of information in a throw out blurb, but it's not very much. They're not hiding anything. If you go on their website, they got much more, but they clearly designed this package for a wider market than rum nerds. This is to me, this reads as presented to say, I am an artisanal product. You don't exactly know what I am, but I am an artisanal product. Please buy me. Okay, so that's I will talk a little bit more about the distillery in a moment, but you've heard me babble on enough. Let's actually try this thing, and I have reasons for trying this first, by the way. Okay, so Clarin, pot distilled cane juice. Oh, leave that there. All right, so I'm going to try this neat. Add a little bit of water to it, a little squirt. Let it sit down, let it settle. Talk a little bit, babble a little bit more. Then we'll go back to see what it does with the water. Yeah, the nose on these things always makes me happy. This is olives for days. Green olives, black olives. A little, but like mixed in with like concentrated seawater, just straight brine. And there's a little bit of pickle in there. Also, like sort of almost like unpickled cucumber too. And then if you go behind that, there's a kind of herbal backdrop to it. So it's sort of olives and herbs. So there's fennel, definitely a sort of fennel anise kind of note. It's parsley, but then there's this savory side to it too. Then like almost like cheap beef jerky and soy sauce. You just like muddled your beef jerky and soy sauce and olives. I know this sounds wonderful. Um, and like fish sauce too, like that sort of umami note, and like paprika, but not like super nice paprika. This is like the sort of plastic bottle, Walmart paprika that you buy for like $1. Um, and it's fun. I mean, this does not smell like any kind of molasses-based rum. Get Jamaica out of your head. This is not a big, heavy Jamaican, ester bomb. This is much more chiseled and exact and angular. But at the same time, it's much more sort of vegetal and, well, I guess olives are technically fruit, right? But much more green than Martinique style agricole. So on the palate, quite soft actually. Much softer than in the rival than Jamaican. Again, this is more of a middleweight, right? Brine again, green olive, not so much black olive on the palate. Um, Definitely an absinthe note, just anise, lots of some black licorice, kind of heading in that direction. But then like a minty thing, like cooling effect. Let me one more shot. Yeah. Not exactly mint, but it's edging towards, those after dinner mints that are sort of different colors the restaurants put at the front where you sort of grab a handful after a meal if you're 10 years old like I was. Um, but then um, yeah, the absinthe's really coming through. It's sort of um, dem, demolishing the sort of olive briny character a little bit. Mm. No, it's just that's in front, but then the licorice is and the minty thing is all in the finish. Um, a little kind of olive oil, virgin olive oil, um, some medicinal notes like maybe like old bandages, some tar. Um, Not really anything fruity in this. So we're not anywhere near Hamden or those guys. Um, quite. I mean, it's a really big, round, complex profile. But as I'm going to talk about in a minute, after I add a little bit of water, I mean, it doesn't necessarily go that far with it, especially when you add water. So do 3 squirts. Let's see if that's good enough. Mm-mm. Close enough. Okay, so what I have to say about this. So this is interesting. So again, with the Veliers, you look at them, all the alcohol percentages, right, are decimal points because that's how they come off the still. They don't come off on a nice even number. This is bottled at, well, first of all, it's bottled at 55%, which is humongous. Not as big as some of the, Jamaican white overproofs, but big. But notice that nice round number. It's 55. It's not like 54.7 or something. Again, with the label, with the sort of L19 sidelining of the lot number thing, this seems like it's meant to present as a consistent product. They've gotten the proof kind of where they want it to be. They don't want to have to futz with it too much, probably for tax purposes. They want to. It seems like they want to bring this in, on a more consistent basis, not having to sort of draw attention to different vintages and things. And that's great. So think of this So we're not getting into mezcal territory yet, where there's $30 mezcals that are bottled at 40% and they have no discernible mezcal character anymore. This is not that. This might be a sort of pebble in the avalanche heading in that direction, but this is not that. This is still very identifiable as a Clarin. It still definitely has the family relationship with particularly the Sajus and the Vaval, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But at the same time, well, let me leave that for a moment. So this is made. It's called Clarin Milot, but it's actually not actually made in the town of Milot. It's actually made in this distillery is Distillerie Patrick St, which is also the name of the master distiller there. It's actually made in a little commune called or sub-commune, I guess they would call it, Carrefour-des-Pères, which is sort of halfway in between Milot and Cap-Haïtien. Sort of you head south from the bigger city, and you get there, I don't know, maybe an hour or so. There's more information on their website. They're not putting it on the bottle, but it's there and they're making it available. Sort of, again, wine nerd style. Let's see. Looking more at my notes. Yeah, so pot still setup, wild yeast. There's a list of cane, which I didn't put down, but I'll put it down there in the description. And why they didn't call it, Clarin Carrefour-des-Pères or Clarin Patrick St, I don't know. I guess Clarin Milot has more of a catchy ring to it. So that's fine. Marketing, it works. Now trying it with water. It's a little bit more pickly, but doesn't actually develop all that much. Yeah, sort of pickles taking in for the olives, or the olives are still there. And a little bit of sort of tomato, like Campbell's tomato soup comes in. Maybe a little bit of like old rust, like 70s car that's kind of rusted away. It reminds me of, I've used this note before, but there's a note you find in South African Pinotage, which is a wine, which is very much like this. It's kind of rusty penny kind of thing. On the palate, sweetness comes out, actually. Ooh. And a big dose of like pepperiness. Kind of pepper, do you know Scotch bonnet pepper? It's sort of native to island cuisine. So think like jerk spice. There's a little bit of jerk spice going on here. And that olive oil thing again, mint is heavy on this. We've sort of gone from dinner mints to just like straight eating mint leaves. There's even like a Coca-Cola note right on the back end. This is yummy, actually. But I mean, so one thing I'm going to discuss in the next couple of videos is the other Clarins just explode with they go nuts when you add water to them, which is kind of right up my alley. I love that crap. This keeps it simpler. This remains in a sort of tightly defined range, much more. Which is to say, if I were to make a judgment about this, how to take this. So, well, first of all, I'm going to grade this 86 out of 100. So I like it. This is a good score. It's going to fall behind the other Clarins as a sipper. But the thing about this is, I think it might be the one maybe best suited to function beyond sipping material. I could see this functioning unbelievably well as like an aperitif. I mean, the olive nature of this is just, I mean, it almost works as its own like dirty martini. This is like I could see classic, dry cocktail fans, or even like fans of old man liqueurs like Amaros and things. I could see them going nuts over this, just you know, throwing it in a glass over ice or something, um, as an aperitif. Not so much, man cave, sipping with notes and the kind of stuff I love to do, but just like a pour this at a party and let people get warmed up before dinner, where you're going to serve your crazy wine from, I don't know, Jura or somewhere in France. Um, mm, Also a terrific mixer if you want to play with it. The mixologists are going to love this. I think this is probably, I don't know how to put it, more stable as a mixing ingredient. It's going to be more predictable and how it reacts to things than, say, I love the Saju. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but um, it just changes so much when you sort of start to play with it. This is less of a chameleon. This is more of a sort of stable, rock solid foundation for doing other things. Um, so yeah, 86 out of 100. Uh, it's great. I think so. Right now, because of the nature of the distributors, I'm mostly seeing this in nerdy wine shops, like small scale wine shops, rather than the big chain stores. I'm guessing when it hits the big chain stores, it's going to be a couple bucks cheaper than the Velier Clarins, which is an appropriate place for it. I wouldn't. So how would I take this? I don't think you can really call this like the accessible Clarin, because it's there are no accessible Clarins. It's just kind of an extreme style by its nature. God, that's good. I mean, think of it this way. So in the land of Porsche, of supercars, so performance monsters, your Ferraris and your McLarens and your Lamborghinis, just these mad cars. You also have the Porsche Turbo, right? The 911 Turbo, um, which is insane. It's a supercar. If you look at the stats on it, like all those numbers are impossible, but it also has a back seat, right? It has you could probably nice interior. You could probably get it over a speed bump if you wanted to. Um, so the purists are going to look at that and say, well, why? It's a supercar. It's always going to be nuts. Why not go for the crazy one? Get yourself a Lamborghini that's on fire and be done with it. Um, because you're gonna lose everyone with the Porsche Turbo that you already lost with everything else. So who cares? Go all the way. Um, but nevertheless, if you were to pick like an accessible supercar, that would probably be the one. This is kind of in the same territory. It's insane. Like normal people are not going to drink this, but within that insane category of Clarin, I think this is kind of the approachable one, right? Um, that being said, I was never a huge fan of the 911, so you know, brilliant as an aperitif, brilliant for mixing. But if you're looking for a sipper, might be worth taking in for an extra couple of bucks for the others. So we'll be moving on to those soon. God, I can do sipping duty well though. Thank you very much for watching, and cheers.